everyone. Welcome. My name is Laura Murphy. I'm here to welcome you on behalf of TechConnect to the Sourcewell Ventures Civic Solutions Challenge informational webinar. I'm really excited to be joined by Carolyn Robinson. She represents Sourcewell as their Director of Innovation Pilots. And today we're just going to walk through some of the ins and outs of the challenge, how to apply, some best practices, and then we'll save time at the end of the webinar to ensure that we address all of your questions, as many as we can get to. So as you go through, if you have anything, any questions that come up for you, if you'll enter them in the control panel, we'll get to as many as we can at the end. And any that we can't get to, we will follow up on individually via email afterward. So welcome, Caroline, and we'll jump over and she'll get to speak a little bit more on Sourcewell's perspective and why they're doing the challenge. I'm just going to cover a few kind of operational logistics to get us started. So what is the challenge? We're seeking technologies to improve the functioning of government education offices through increased efficacy, efficiency, and reduced administrative burden. And the way that that's showing up is essentially across 3 application key focus areas. So we're looking for solutions in operational gov tech, public safety tech, and public health and community well-being tech. So we also want these solutions to address some common pain points. We know what agencies that Sourcewell works with, the things that they're looking for, the things that they struggle with. And so a strong application will address these things, some of these things. So accessibility, cybersecurity, data utilization, interoperability, and modernization. So when you're applying, consider how you are at the intersection of those pieces as well, and how you could solve a challenge for an agency. So today is the webinar, but if you want to follow up and have more individual work and Q&A with the other challenge administrators, you can do that during our office hours. So think about how that might have felt if you were in college or something and you went to see a professor and wanted to talk with them about your specific work. This is really just a Q&A session on February 11th at 2 p.m. Eastern. So you can go to the website and join that, register for that just the same way that this is. The submission deadline is March 26th by 8 p.m. Eastern. So you want to make sure that you complete the online form by then. We will notify finalists by late April, and then the final event where you'll pitch to an audience and review panel is in September 22nd to 24th at Smart Cities Connect Conference, and that'll be held just outside of DC in National Harbor. So a quick FAQ, a few things that we're asked about often. Our international responses, welcome. Your company needs to be headquartered in the United States to qualify for the challenge. The minimum TRL, so I think Caroline will speak a little bit more about, readiness, but we're not looking for idea phase companies. This needs to have sort of a close to pilot, moving toward pilot readiness level. And so the idea here is that a winner of this challenge could potentially qualify for a pilot with one of their agencies. And so Sourcewell will put challenge winners in connection with those possible partners and work to find those kinds of opportunities. So a TRL too early stage would not be a good fit because of that end goal. Can you submit more than once? So yes, you want to, if you would like to submit more than once, you can. You would be submitting different technologies, different solutions, and that's all right. You just want to have be really clear about how it answers to one of the 3 areas of interest and the pain points. And if you have multiple solutions under your umbrella at your company, or and you want to, they each address different things, and you want to apply with those, then we welcome that. So if you haven't already grabbed it, feel free to use this QR code or go directly to the website. You'll see all of the information there about how to apply, and of course the application itself will be there. If you need anything, if you have any questions, we're very quick to respond. You'd send an email to challenges@techconnect.org and we'll be happy to answer that for you. Hopefully we get to as many of those today as possible, but if you find something comes up for you later, you can go to the office hours or you can email us and we'll jump in and support you there. So with that, I want to allow Caroline to speak a little bit about why Sourcewell is engaging in the challenge, what they're hoping to solve, and speak a little bit more about scope with you all before we jump into Q&A. So here she is.
Great. Thanks, Laura. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us. My name is Caroline Robinson, Director of Innovation here at Sourcewell. My work focuses on helping public agencies and solution providers learn together through real-world pilots. So really excited to walk you through what this challenge is all about and how you can put your best foot forward as an applicant. Let me start with a quick overview of what this challenge is. At its core, it's a way for us to surface practical, innovative solutions that are ready to be tested in the public sector. We're running an open application process, and finalists will get to present at the Smart Cities Connect Fall Conference, as Laura mentioned. The selected finalists will have the opportunity to partner with Sourcewell Ventures to pilot their solutions. And why are we doing this? So we're doing this because public agencies are looking for fresh approaches. Innovation is tough in this space. There's procurement barriers, concerns around risk, and it's just difficult to validate whether something truly works in the real world. So this challenge gives innovators like you a clearer, more supported path into public sector testing and implementation. One thing that we see again and again across government is that promising ideas don't fail because they're bad. They fail because it's hard to get them implemented, and that includes testing, validation, and resourcing. Agencies don't always have the time or capacity to experiment, and vendors aren't always able to prove public value in a way that resonates with agencies. So there's this disconnect happening, and that's really why so much innovation potential, it goes unrealized. So the challenge exists specifically to address that gap. And our goal is to help get these good solutions, not just attention, but actually get traction. And I want to highlight what makes Sourcewell unique, because it's a big part of the value behind this challenge. Sourcewell is a trusted partner to public agencies across the country. We have a network of 50,000 agencies and over 900 suppliers from different markets, including urban, rural, and underserved areas. As a result, we have a deep understanding of how government operations actually work. So we want to be that bridge between innovation and implementation. We don't just evaluate solutions, we help create those conditions for them to be tested and adopted so that they can really scale. And as an applicant, that translates into real access to public sector perspectives. So meaningful learnings for you ahead, even if you aren't ultimately selected for a pilot. I also want to take a moment to introduce Sourcewell Ventures, because we're really the team spearheading this challenge. Sourcewell Ventures is essentially Sourcewell's innovation program. We work directly with agencies to explore emerging needs, and we co-develop and test new approaches together through structured pilot programs where we operate in real-world environments. Our goal is to understand feasibility, public value, and readiness for broader adoption. So we're really hosting this competition because we're positioned to help you learn quickly, gain invaluable access to real public sector perspectives, and our process is designed to help reduce the friction that often slows down innovation in this space. When we are evaluating applications, we're going to look for a few key things. First is problem fit. So really want to see a clear public sector use case, and we want to really understand that there's a real operational challenge that you're addressing. So that kind of problem statement piece is going to be super essential. Laura spoke a little bit about this, but solution readiness is going to be another big component of how we evaluate the applications. So looking for innovations beyond the concept stage, really looking for practical, testable technology that you can put into the field today, and something that can be evaluated in a real-world setting. We're also looking for innovators who have that kind of partnership mindset, really have that willingness to iterate, who have openness to agency feedback, and interest in collaboration with us, not just sales. So what happens next? So we have a lot of additional information about this on our website. So please feel free to reference all the great information there. But basically, once you apply, there will be a selection and judging process. If you're selected as a finalist, you'll get visibility with public sector leaders, structured feedback, and the potential to explore pilot opportunities with our support. Finalists will also get the opportunity to present at the Smart Cities Fall Conference in September, which is a super exciting exposure opportunity. So, and more information, as I mentioned, on the website. So I think that covers it for today. And before we move into Q&A, I just want to thank everyone for spending some time with us. We're really, really excited to see the solutions you're building and how they might create value for our public agency partners. So with that, I'll hand it over to Laura, who will be leading our Q&A.
Awesome. Thanks, Caroline. All right, so if you have any questions, feel free to enter them in the questions control panel on the side, and I'm going to get to as many of those as I can. So let's start with one from Eric. Is there a way to provide Sourcewell customers with something like a series of demos from Sourcewell vendors that have cutting edge technologies, with each of them spread out over a period of time where interested customers could sign up and attend the demo?
So having like a demo day is definitely something that a lot of interested folks ask us about. Really, our goal behind this challenge is to do more than just demo day. We're really taking you through this evolution of pilot and partnering with you. So that's the goal of this challenge specifically.
Perfect. All right, and then let's talk a little bit more about the pilot opportunity. Chris Medina asked, does the competition include a pilot? And if so, is there a budget, or is the competition set up as a demo? So kind of like, what exactly does that mean, the pilot opportunity? What, maybe speaking about how y'all have done that in the past and sort of the financial range and what that's represented before?
Yes. So again, more than just a demo day, so the finalists will have the opportunity to do a more structured pilot, and there is funding and support there. I think more information on the specifics there on the website. But the pilot is also not guaranteed funding. So there's going to be a process where we partner together to understand what kind of milestones we need to put in place with the potential to reach, I think, up to 100K in support for the pilot.
Awesome. All right. Laxmish asked, is TRL 5 acceptable?
Laura, you're going to have to help me with that.
Yeah, it is. Yep. Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Okay. So I think if you're not in concept phase, if you're moving toward pilot, you're in range here. So I would encourage, for anyone questioning sort of like, am I in that spot or not? If you're still conceptualizing, you're too early. If you're past that, it's worth your time to submit. This is not an onerous application. And again, as Caroline pointed out, we're looking for partners, people who can engage and go back and forth and talk about what might work. And so there's definitely opportunity. How you could fit in there can be flexible around like, the needs of the agency partners and things like that. So yeah, and if you're really not sure still and you want to know, I mean, TRL 5 is in a good spot, but if you still are not sure and you'd like to talk more about your specific solution, we can do that in office hours as well. So feel free to join that session and we can kind of hash out the details. But I would say err on the side of applying because it's free to do that and it's not onerous. So I think jump in and do your application. If you're not sure, the only exception is like, we're not looking for research, right? So nothing that's still idea phase. Eric asked a similar question. Our proposed solution is already commercially available and in limited use. Is that in scope? Yes, it is. So there's not really an upper limit for TRL. So there's a lower limit, right? So we don't think, it might be challenging 3 and lower, anything that's like really truly not yet moving toward implementation yet would be tricky, but if you're commercially available, then you are definitely in range here. All right, let's see. Stephen is an Irish-based company. Can we partner with a US headquartered company to do a joint application? Okay, so the company applicant itself has to be US based, has to be headquartered, What they do in terms of their partners and the arrangements between the two of you is between them, like between the two of you, but they would be the primary applicant. There has to be one. We don't have like an entry for multiple applicants in a single entry. There's not a teamed approach. So if you're working with them and they submit the application and they are headquartered here, then that application qualifies. If you submit it and you are not headquartered here, even if your partner is, that does not qualify. Okay. Chris asks, is this competition open to general public solution providers or only Sourcewell suppliers?
So in terms of the partner agencies for pilot, it would be open to both our current supplier pool as well as potential additional partners that we identify.
Great. He says, thanks. You're welcome, Chris. Can we hear a little bit about a pilot program that Sourcewell has run before? Do you have an example of the sort of thing that has succeeded with one of your agency partners?
Sure. Yeah. So we have a number of different pilots that are live and active right now. A good example of a pilot that's actually moved from pilot phase to scale is actually some of the work we're doing with military installations. So a pilot idea formed and we started working with a few installations and have been able to scale to a very broad reach around supporting our installations in kind of new innovative ways that we hadn't explored before. So that's one example.
That's great. When you talk about the Sourcewell innovation ecosystem or the partner ecosystem, can you talk a little bit about the kinds of stakeholders that Sourcewell works with even if you're not able to give examples, maybe like what types of organizations are they and how many, what's the reach for Sourcewell with that ecosystem?
Yeah, so the ecosystem is very comprehensive. I think, we work with thousands and thousands of agencies, city agencies, rural agencies, underserved agencies, and we are also in partnership with a lot of associations, and that really spans the whole gamut of different industries and different sectors. So it's very broad. The reach of our ecosystem is quite large, and so that's why we're really excited to be running this challenge, where we think that we can tap into some real value for potential folks looking to scale, pilot and scale because of that reach.
Great. Someone asked, will my application be made public? No, it won't be made public, but it should not include confidential information. So you'll see this on the application itself, but that's a disqualifying factor. So if we see it and you apply early, we catch it, maybe you accidentally leave something on an attachment or something like that that you include, we'll try to flag that and let you know so that it doesn't disqualify you. But that is a factor, even if like an attached deck or letter of support or something like that has an identifier that says, confidential, we or do not distribute or things like that, we can't accept the application. So just really be sure that you comb over everything you submit and don't include anything that falls in that category. Yeah, that's just to protect everyone. So we're just looking for your just a little bit higher level information than that. So when you get to the pitch on site and you want to share more and dig in, then that's absolutely at your discretion. But for the application period, it will not be part of the deal. Question about the pitch. What does that look like? Tell me more about the on-site. So Smart Cities Connect conference is located in National Harbor, like I mentioned. It is co-located with Defense Tech Connect and the SBIR STTR Innovation Conference. So you would arrive on site, you would have roughly 5 minutes to pitch, and then roughly 2 minutes for a review panel Q&A. After which a determination is made about the winners on site. So all of that's done in person that day. So you find everything out while you're there in National Harbor. The other thing that's interesting and kind of great about being there is that you as I mentioned, there are these co-located events. So if you have crossover interests, like funding from SBIR, STTR, which is called America's Seed Fund for a reason, you definitely can sit in on those sessions and meet those agency partners. The audience is really city heavy. The Smart Cities Connect conference serves city leaders, city decision makers who are implementing solutions and looking for those. So not only are you up for eligibility as a winner within this program, and potential is there for you to achieve a pilot with Sourcewell and its partners, but you also just have a broader audience of city leaders and decision makers on site. And in addition to that, there's corporate scouts and solution providers you could look to for possible partnership opportunities. Other funders include like venture capitalists or other agencies that provide funding. And so the audience is broad, and you'll have access to a stage in front of all of them. All right, are there any types of solutions that you are not looking for? So maybe, Caroline, I guess, thinking about those 3 areas of interest or the pain points, is there some way in which you think someone could get get the wrong idea, submit something that isn't in scope? Can you think of anything that's like a no-no?
Yeah, so I think for the public health vertical specifically, we would be not looking for anything super clinical, really focused in more of like the public health sphere. So any sort of clinical application, we would probably, we wouldn't move forward.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. In terms of solutions, we're looking at technologies. Are there other things that would be of interest? Does it matter if it's hardware or software? Does it matter if it's maybe a system or a process, but not a technology?
Nope, we're open to all of that. So doesn't have to be, I think we, typically we'll see some component of technology when you put sort of these types of problem statements out there, but it doesn't have to be limited to that. So any sort of innovative new solution, you'll see a lot of the language as solution, and we kept it broad for intention. So it doesn't have to be a technology.
Great. And then for the pilot opportunities, do those scale at full city municipal level, or are there scales, there's implementation that's at a smaller scale than that ever when you run a pilot?
Yeah, totally. So yes, so we look at what makes sense for that specific pilot, and also where there are partners that are eager to participate or who have a specific gap or need. So that doesn't have to be a full-fledged city. It could be, a part of a city agency. It could be another kind of associated public actor. So there's definitely range, and I think depending on who the finalists are and who the finalist will be, we'll be able to figure out who the best match for a pilot site will be.
Great. Okay, another question. For the public health pain point, would you be interested in technologies for treatment courts that help improved outcomes, less recidivism after mental health and drug counseling?
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
Great. Okay, and then who owns the IP developed or refined through the challenge? I can take that if you want, but.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that we would, so the IP is not owned by us just because we're running the challenge. So you would remain in ownership of that.
Yeah, the solution provider retains all of that. Anything you enter into, any agreements or considerations with future partners would be on the table later, but have nothing to do with this challenge. So we can't speak about any possible future arrangements, but Sourcewell and TechConnect have no interest in IP, that you will retain that entirely. How does Sourcewell support scaling or procurement if a pilot is successful?
In many ways, we are able to connect you with the right agencies to be able to do this kind of validation piece, right, which is super essential for the procurement process. We obviously run our own solicitation process, and that's completely separate. So I would call out that just because you're a winner of the challenge doesn't mean there's going to be a guaranteed contract in place, but we will kind of help create that pathway to get there if that seems like it would be viable or interesting to the founder or to the winner.
Okay, great. Are there any specific compliance, security, or data privacy requirements that applicants should be aware of upfront?
I think we have, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I know that there were some specific questions in the application, which we can reference, but nothing outside of that.
Yeah, I think it's of interest. The question in the application is, does your organization currently hold any security or compliance certifications, such as HITRUST or SOC 2? So that's of interest. It's not a disqualifier if you don't, but we are interested in how aware you are already and capable in that domain. What are the evaluation criteria the judges will use? So that's a great question. So evaluation metrics are listed on the website. I'll go through them quickly, but for 20 points each, we'll look at impact. So is the proposed technology likely to make positive impacts on government operations? Team, does the submission include sufficient information about the experience and responsibilities of the team? Innovation, obviously. So does the proposed technology offer unique performance and or capabilities? And then after that, the next highest section is for 15 points. We look at commercial readiness. So is it likely to be ready for pilot scale testing within the next 12 months? So we mentioned kind of readiness before. If you're moving in that direction, or you already are in a place of readiness, you would achieve full points there. You could achieve partial points if you're not entirely there, but maybe your innovation and the other impact and team are super high. So don't count yourself out if any one of these isn't 100%. The other thing is experience. So for 10 points experience, does the respondent have previous experience collaborating with the government or educational agency? Again, not a requirement by any means. This is an opportunity to find innovations that have not yet done that work, but if you do have experience, then that could help you. Adoption. So is the proposed technology likely to be easily adopted by public agencies? That's 10 points. And quality. Does the proposal include compelling, engaging information about the organization, technology, and goals? So just how complete is your application and how easy to understand is your solution? Is there a resource that lists the governmental and educational agencies that Sourcewell works with?
Yes, and we can get that posted link to our site, but that it should be on the main Sourcewell site if you look there.
And actually, I think I have that link. I'll add it here into the chat if you guys have an interest in seeing that. All right, what else? Keep your questions coming. Keep answering them. What level of commitment is expected from teams during a pilot or testing phase? Maybe can you tell a little bit more about how that looks if you do work with a company on a pilot?
Yeah, I think it depends. I hate to give that it depends answer, but it kind of does. I think it depends on who the pilot site partners will be, what type of resources they have available. We have an innovation team that will help structure the pilot, design the pilot, manage the pilot. So we will have that kind of team of resources ready to go. It depends on the scope of what we're actually testing and validating. So depending on what direction we go, and that's a conversation we'll have, right? So our pilot program is designed to be flexible with intention so that we can support, larger scope, smaller scope. So it depends on what we're really trying to test and validate. But know that there is definitely going to be support not only from Sourcewell, but from our partner agencies as well. So it wouldn't be just you going it alone.
Great. All right, another one is, what approximate timeline would it be from pitch to pilot?
Yeah, so I think that is another timeline that ranges. We will be looking at through the application process. This is a criteria that we're using to identify who is going to be the best fit for this program. Those solutions that seem more ready, like, that is a consideration that we'll be making as we evaluate who those finalists will be and who the ultimate partner will be. But at the same time, things in government can have a slower pace. So I don't imagine that the winner will be piloting, the week after they pitch down in DC. So we'll probably have a little time, but that can also be, an open conversation too, depending on where we are, what the final group looks like, and how ready our pilot agencies are, as well as another consideration.
Great. Are there other programs that Sourcewell Ventures plans to offer?
Other programs. Well, so Sourcewell Ventures as an entity, we are doing our own pilot programs in parallel. So depending on how the finalists pan out, like there's opportunity to work with us in the future. Really our bread and butter is that kind of pilot initiative. So things that we're very focused on running. We do 5 to 10 pilots annually, and we're constantly evaluating new pilot ideas through our partners, through different marketplaces. So there's an opportunity to stay engaged with us, even if you're not selected as a finalist this time, but potentially for future opportunity as well.
Great. How many will advance to the next round? How many advance beyond the initial review stage? So 10 finalists will advance to the pitch round. Will applicants have an opportunity to clarify or refine proposals after submission? So the submission itself is the determining factor for finalist status. We don't continue to iterate on applications once they're submitted. If you submit one and you think, actually, I wish I had said this differently or something's changed, you should resubmit within the application period. March 26th, don't forget, guys. And that's fine. You can send us a note, or we'll see that there's a duplicate. We'll remove the older version of that specific technology title, like name, or you can send us an email and ask us to do that if you know you're submitting a duplicate on purpose. But in general, no, there's not an iterative process on the application. And then once you become a finalist, you will develop a pitch deck. We ultimately turn that in, but that's where you would be able to refine how you approach the language specifically for that final pitch. And if something changes from the time of application to the pitch, then you would obviously be able to share that. And so that's flexible, of course. Let's see here. We don't have a lot more questions, so if you have one, shoot it over now. How does the challenge differ from a traditional RFP process? I think there's a sort of like the question about how this applies for cities. Why do a challenge is a great question. Do you want to take a first go at that, Caroline, and I can support?
Well, so with a traditional RFP process, there's a pretty lengthy timeline, I would say. Typically, that is a very slow process. The idea behind these innovation pilots is that we can be more nimble, we can be more agile. Again, it doesn't mean that results in a guaranteed contract, so that's another difference. But definitely kind of creating that pathway to get there.
Absolutely. And we're seeing cities do this more and more and more to replace the traditional process because it is so long and challenging, especially for the innovators also. So to get things in place in cities, and then so much changes, innovation moves so quickly. It allows for fresh ideas to emerge quickly. I do not have any other questions from the audience right now. If you have any more, feel free to put them in here. Send an email to challenges@techconnect.org, and we're happy to answer any questions you have along the way. You can go to the challenge website. I dropped that in the chat, and feel free to sign up there for office hours. We'll also put a recording of this webinar there so you can view it later. Thank you all for taking time today. Thank you, Caroline, for speaking about Sourcewell's perspective in the challenge and sharing more information. And we look forward to seeing all of your applications. So have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.